I want to welcome you to this weekly devotional from Dora Church of Christ. I want us to think today, I want us to think this week, I want us to think next week. The throes of Christmas is upon us. Should be a joyous time. It should be a time where each of us enjoys everything there is, and yet so often we find ourselves at odds with the world. We find ourselves at odds with situations. Facing a year where I've walked in stores and there are things that are not in the stores that we want. There are gifts still to get for some people, and they're absent from the shelves. There are things that we wanted to be able to give someone that we cannot find. We become distressed over it. Seems I have quite a bit of business this week in seeing doctors, and next week it's seeing doctors. Traveling through traffic of the bigger cities, and even after Christmas, the return of gifts, and the New Year's, it's upon us. All of these things. People trying to get either to someplace for Christmas, or people trying to return someplace after Christmas, or to get back after the first year, to get back in time for school, or they have to go back to work, or whatever it might be. We find ourselves in situations where we become people who fall very easily to temptation, to being upset, to being mad, to throwing a fit of some kind. Somebody pulls in front of us out of a four-way stop. Somebody takes the last toy off the shelf, or the last canned good that I wanted off of the shelf. What's society today? Society deals a lot on anger and hate. Maybe there's somebody there that came to get something and it's not on the shelf and they're upset, and maybe I have the last can of it. It might be good just to offer them that can, say, hey, you can have what I got. We could do a lot of things to relieve the stress. We don't know where every person has been the day before. Like I said, I know I've got several doctor's visits over this next 2 weeks. And most of them benign visits, but there are people who are visiting who those visits aren't benign. Difficult to handle in life. There are those who the most important thing they could have done was get the right gift for their wife, or the right gift for someone that they love, or the gift that a child has wanted and thrown a fit over for months and months and months, and one cannot find it. Maybe it's just bad news. Maybe it's facing this time that's supposed to be joyous and wonderful and full of life. And yet, this one that's upset is missing a loved one that they have lost this year, last year. You see, we all look at the world and we become selfish. We want things our way, and we cease to look, to see that there's another person there. There's another being there, that maybe they have a hurt heart. Maybe they've been put under tremendous pressure. Maybe they've been ridiculed. Maybe it's their only way back to try to do something above and beyond, and yet they're facing a deadline, or they're facing a difficult situation. We as children of God should be happy and blessed with what we have, nothing more. We should be able to face the world with joy all the time, not just now, but all the time. Being willing to look and say, hey, don't worry about it. We'll take this can. I've got 2 of them. I don't need them. Somebody honks a horn at you. You be as polite as possible. Somebody wants around you in the store, and I know I'm the most impatient man in the world. And yet we need to consider what that other person is going through, and what they're seeing, what they are seeing from me. In Romans, the 12th chapter, I'm going to start in verse 14. I'm going to read through verse 21, because it all has something to consider of our life in public. Our life before people who don't like us to start with because we're Christians. But he said, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse them. And he's talking about persecution because I believe in God, because I stand up for God. He said, rejoice with them who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Then he says something more. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty, but associate with the lowly. Never be wise in your own sight. Repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. If possible, so far as depends on you, live peaceably with all. Beloved, never revenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine. I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if the enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. Sometimes we just need to consider that that other person may be having a terribly difficult day. And remember that I have God. I have God. It might be just that simple. It should be. It should be just that simple to step back and say, I have God. I have no need for anything more. I have no need to cause distress in someone else's life. And maybe even sitting down and saying, hey, why don't you sit down and I'll buy you lunch? Why don't you sit down and rest a little bit and get us something to drink? It sounds way too easy. And yet, if we pay attention, if we look at that other person and we offer them the kindness of God, it is oft times that we have no idea how much that means to a person to be able to look and say, they really care about me. There's so many people in the world today that no one cares about. There's so many people in the world who find themselves alone and in difficult situations. We're here to try to relieve some of the pains, some of the hurts, some of the heartaches, and to show them who Christ is, to let them know that there is a God who loves them. He wants them. He seeks them. And that we're willing to befriend them and show them the way. As we go about these next few days, weeks, let's remember, I don't know what the other person is feeling. I don't know what's happened to them just moments before. There's always something that can be very difficult. It's causing anguish. Maybe it's just pressure. Maybe it's deadlines. Maybe it's getting everything done so that I can get off. So I can get off on Friday evening so I can get to where I'm going for Christmas. And I'm already late. I want us to think about the other person. I want us to consider their troubles, their trials, their pains. Set ours aside. Set ours aside. And as far as it is possible for us, be at peace. Be at peace within ourselves. If we're at peace within ourselves, then we will be at peace with all men. I want to thank you for being here. May each of you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and God bless.